In order to get around and load up the different patches and presets that you have for the Symfony series, you have to have a pretty good understanding of Kontakt and how it works with NKI files. These on the left-hand side are called your libraries. So each one of these different instruments is a different library. They're mapped to sample libraries located somewhere on your computer. So if I click the little drop-down menu there, I can open up the containing folder and you can see where they are on your computer. And you can also remove the library if you ever wanted to get rid of it. Now that won't delete it, you'd have to delete it off the disk first. You also have the access to the manual for each one of those. When you click on Instruments, what you're actually looking at is a list of NKI files. NKIs are presets, different presets for that sample set. So you may have noticed that when I was loading up these files before, I was dragging them and dropping them into the browser. That's because double-clicking will not activate that as your next instrument if you have one loaded up already. So take a look. I'm going to take this bassoon essential, drag and drop it there. Now once I do that, it loads it up right there, the woodwind solo instrument. But if I were to load up clarinets, let's say I just want a clarinet next, if I double click it, it's not going to do that. You notice down at the bottom there, it loaded it up as another instrument. And that's because it's helping you to build a multi. It's helping you to build this multi-layered, multi-timbral sound that can be controlled by various MIDI devices. So if you look here, this woodwind solo is now MIDI channel 2. So that's a point of frustration for a lot of people when they don't use Kontakt that much, if you don't know that. So when I'm playing now, I still only have bassoons. I'm not going to hear the woodwinds until I move it to channel 1 because that's what my controller is playing on. So now I've got both of them playing at the same time. So you can load up a bunch, as many as your computer can handle. You don't have to have the whole instrument open if you want. You can shrink it down by clicking on the little minus or plus sign and make your bassoons, clarinets, add all your stuff in like that. So if you don't want to use the quintet or quartet, you can go ahead and build it that way. But if you want to cycle through the patches of a particular library, you can actually go up here and go to these different instruments. It'll select the next instrument in a folder and replace the current instrument. So rather than dragging and dropping from there. But keep in mind, it's only going to do it for the current instrument, which is the current sample library. It's not going to go to the woodwind ensemble or the string ensemble. So if you want to go to those, you have to open up the instruments folder. And then if you want to replace this instrument, if you don't want to use this one, you want to say, I don't want this, I want this different instrument here, then you have to drag and drop. So I'll grab this violins 1, drag it, drop it there, and it will fully replace it. It's a very attacky violin sound. All right, so those are some just Kontakt and NKI basics. You can load up multiple instances inside this. So if I do load up violins, violas, cellos, basses, then I can tell whatever's sending MIDI to this to send channel 1 to the violins, channel 3 to the violas, channel 4 to the cellos. So I can use several MIDI tracks all routed to this one instrument. Or for a little more flexibility, I can just create separate tracks for each one. So I would get rid of all these. Goodbye. Get rid of them all until there's only one left. And then simply make a new track with a different one. Make sure that when you're using this too, let's open up Native Instruments Kontakt. When you're loading up Kontakt, that you load it up into a slot that doesn't have reverb or something already mapped. So Logic does that by default. There might be a couple other DAWs that do that because you'd be scratching your head trying to find out why you have so much reverb on something when you don't have it assigned. So now I can go to my woodwind ensembles and let's just grab the saxophones for good measure. Very classical sounding, nice. And now I've got them on separate tracks. So those are the two ways that you can populate your business here with NKI files. You can load them all up into a single instance of Kontakt, or you can separate them. There's not much benefit to loading them in a single instance anymore other than organizational skills. If you are pretty hip with managing multiprocessor support, usually you'll want to turn it off inside of Kontakt and let your DAW handle it. Then the DAWs are pretty good at routing these different instruments to different CPU cores if you have a multi-core machine.